Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today we have Swimmer again on the channel, Mercy Pro player for the Boston Uprising Academy team. He's here to give some tips on how to play her in this new kind of like bunker meta, I suppose, but also how to play her in a lot of different situations, including major mistakes that players are making. You can check out all of Swimmer's details in the description below, but let's get started. Before we get started with these tips and mistakes, why should people listen to you when it comes to Mercy Swimmer?
Hi, I'm Swimmer. I am a main support player for Uprising Academy, Boston Uprising's Academy team. I have a lot of playtime on Mercy and Lucio, but mainly Mercy. I have over 300 hours on my main account, over 200 hours of those in competitive mode. I hit 46-16 as a main support in Season 14, and I've been consistently top 500 since Season 7, the first season I hit it. And yeah, I have a ton of playtime on Mercy, and she's probably my favorite hero. So
there's a lot of sort of different areas that we can start with. So tips, what's the first one that you want to go over? Because there's lots of different stuff that Mercy can use to her advantage, right?
I think if we can go down her abilities, I think there's one tip for each ability that we could do. We can start with Guardian Angel. Probably a lot of people tend not to use it so much because they think, oh, it's a cooldown, I don't want to use it. But at the end of the day, Guardian Angel is a 2-second cooldown. Well, technically a second and a half, but it's a very, very fast cooldown, and it gives you a weird hitbox on Mercy, and it also is a very fast movement. So if you can use it to get out of dodge or move from one teammate to another to get yourself out of danger, don't be afraid to use it, because a lot of Mercies tend not to use it out of fear of like, oh, but what if I need it at this point? It's such a low cooldown that usually doesn't matter, and in those certain scenarios, you probably shouldn't have been in that position anyway. It's usually like changing your position to allow yourself to be in a safer place, and that's what Guardian Angel is used for. Don't be afraid to go to high ground or go towards your backline support, because they're usually the safest or in the safest place. Always be flying around, because it's the idea of like I say it as like the shark mentality. If you ever stop moving, you're dead. With Mercy. So keep moving, keep using your Guardian Angel, and just fly around, make yourself annoying to hit. Tracers, I've played Tracer in comp, I've hit 4400 on DPS, but trying to chase a Mercy when she's Guardian Angeling is very annoying to do, because she's flying around, she's getting healing, she's getting help from her team. So don't be dead in the water, keep moving around.
The only thing that I can think against that is bunker comp, right? Where she's used quite a lot. You have stationary targets all stood together. In that case, how do you move around so often?
It's usually just like AD kind of movement, and not necessarily fly. You can definitely fly, but I wouldn't necessarily. Usually in bunker, you want to stay in the same place and just make sure you're behind the shield, because a lot of people use snipers to counter bunker or goats. I guess it's a variability. Against DPS compositions, you want to be playing safe, be playing out of LOS of the enemy. Versus goats, that's when you start to abuse fly with bunker. Get to the high ground, fly to people far away. Don't be near goats when you're playing Mercy in bunker. But against DPS, that's when you want to kind of do like the hide tactic. Like, I want to hide behind my shield, I want to hide behind this wall and damage boost and make sure my tanks and my DPS are still alive.
But for the most part, dino dashing between players and keeping yourself up.
Stay away from the enemy, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. With the res, that seems like such an impactful, one of the most impactful abilities in the game, yet it's quite easy to sort of mess up on for a multitude of reasons. So what kind of tips do you have around the res?
I think a lot of it is, a lot of Mercies when they go for reses, it's a trust thing. They don't know if they'll get it off, and they don't know like if the team will help them. And a lot of that is like, hey team, can you help me? Can you help me get this res off? And a lot of that is trusting yourself. Like, look at the area, look where their DPS are, look where their tanks are. Can I get this res off? Like, is it safe? And if it is, and you think it is, go for it immediately, pretty much. Every second you wait is one more second where the enemy has time to act on the res and stop it. If, for whatever reason, your, say, Widow gets picked off on top of Anubis, and you can res her instantly, and you can stay in a safe spot, do it. Don't hesitate, don't wait, because if you wait, chances are some enemy will start to mark it and disallow the res from happening. Of course, there are scenarios when you should wait, when you're healing a tank that's low, or you need to get a damage boost off on someone before you get the res. Like, obviously, do your healing or damage boost before the res in most scenarios, but if a res can swing a fight, do it. Don't be afraid to res. It's a relatively low cooldown, even though it's 30 seconds, but that's usually one fight, you have one res. That's pretty much what it is. So don't be afraid to use it, and have like a trust in yourself. It's the same idea with when you're going for any sort of ultimate. It's like, trust you're using it in the right spot, trust you're resing at the right spot, and trust yourself and go for it.
What about with damage and healing then? Because it feels like you have such a strong ability with being able to damage boost people, but I feel like it can be so easy to go too far damage boosting or too far healing and not doing enough. So how do you balance those two? How do you get the most out of it? Which one should you be doing more of, I guess?
I mean, there's the basic that whenever a target is above 75 HP, or like not 75 HP, 75% HP, you should really be like healing them to full or damage boosting them. Otherwise, you should be healing them up. But there are scenarios when damage is just so important that health might not be. For example, Pharah and Barrage, a lot of times you can heal her up like in between bursts, but damage boosting the Barrage is very, very powerful. So if you can get the initial damage off, your healing isn't going to do that much to stop the incredible amount of damage going into a Pharah midair who isn't moving. Versus like you can heal a target who's running away like a soldier, and then damage boost him when he starts to shoot again. Damage boost when the target is actually like when your teammate is actually doing damage or actually shooting, and heal when they're in a situation where like one of the biggest things is heal people who are going to be doing something in the fight. For example, if I have a Zenyatta who's passively regenerating in the back versus a Winston who's currently in the middle of the enemy team, I want to heal the Winston over the Zenyatta. He has a larger health pool and he needs to live if we want to win the fight, versus our Zen who won't take any damage at this point in time. Find the person who's going to be doing the most in the fight and make sure they're alive or being damage boosted, pretty much. If I have a Pharah and a Tracer, I'm not going to be damage boosting a Pharah because getting in that situation is hard for me. I want to stay high, I want to damage boost my Pharah and make sure she's alive with healing. It's the same idea with a lot of characters and projectile heroes, where they have a fire rate. So for example, you can damage boost your Pharah when she's shooting and then heal her when she's not. And it's the alternation. Damage boost every shot, heal every time there isn't a shot. For just damage boost in general, a lot of people are afraid to use the ability because it's, oh no, my team will die. Trust yourself that like you when you play more, the more you recognize like where is the damage coming in from. Is my player in danger? Is the person I'm damage boosting in danger? If you think they're in danger, don't be afraid to heal them a little bit and like back up. And if you think they're going to get chunked for damage, you can start healing them while they're full health if you think they're going to get chunked. Otherwise, try and hold damage boost, allow them to do their job, because most times, if you damage boost someone, they'll kill the enemy before the enemy kills them.
Unlike a lot of heroes, Mercy has two passives that she can use to her advantage. I guess what comes to mind when it comes to those things where you don't have to press an ability for them?
I think it's the regeneration. Is a lot of Mercy's will play an aggressive play style where they're constantly getting chunked by some sort of damage that disallows them from getting their passive regeneration, which means the other support has to pay attention to them and make sure they're alive. Of course, there's situations where you can't get away with it, like you have no choice but to take damage. And that's okay. She has a regen for a reason. You can take some damage and then back up and like hide for a little bit or just hide from damage and be okay. And don't be afraid to take damage. Like you have the regen, your team doesn't. So if you need to take 100 damage for whatever reason to make sure your team's alive, do it. Like if you have the health pool to do it, if you have like 200 HP or 150 and you can survive that kind of like damage, like if say for example a Mei headshot's gonna hit your team or like someone who's frozen, get in front of the Mei. You can take a 75 damage icicle to the back when a teammate can't if they're frozen. It's the idea of you as Mercy are like the medic for your team. Do what you can to make sure they're alive. And then for Angelic Descent, her other passive, don't be afraid to use it. It's pretty good at making sure you're alive. But at the same time, if the fight's over and you're off the edge of the map, don't just hover there and shoot because you're just staggering and you're wasting time for your team. Just drop to the ground and fall. It's finding the balance of like, when should I be floating and when should I be falling? A lot of times you want to like change how you want to float and fall with like a Pharah or like a Hanzo if you're midair. It's don't always float and don't always fall because then your movement becomes predictable. It's the same idea with like strafing. Use Angelic Descent to strafe midair, fall for a little bit, glide for a little bit, fall for a little bit, glide for a little bit, and experiment with it. What works best for you, and then go with that.
Finally, when it comes to any form of tips, the ultimate is another big one. A lot of confusion on when and where to use this ability. So for you, what's your big tip for using Valkyrie?
For me, I often, when I watch Mercy stream, because sometimes I'll tune into some friends streaming or some other players, it's a lot of like uncertainty of when the ultimate's used. It's just out of like, it's the same idea with Res. It's like a fear of what happens if I throw it too early or too late. Don't be afraid to use it. If you think it's a good time to use it, use it. Trust your instinct. A lot of times it's when a fight is uncertain, like for example, it's a 4v4 and you're not sure if you're going to win, use Valkyrie. It's usually like a good fight winner because damage boost is so good. The healing passive with everyone, 60 HP instead of 50 is very, very good as well. And at the same time, Valk is a very fast charging ultimate. If you're playing like a more team-oriented style of Mercy, where you're like flying from teammate to teammate and healing them or damage boosting them, you're going to get Valk pretty fast. So don't be afraid to use it. And just, again, trust your instinct. Mercy is a very instinctual hero where you have to trust yourself that what you're doing is right. So just trust yourself and use it.
And finally, the big mistake when it comes to playing Mercy. I imagine there's quite a few, but what's the big standout one that you wanted to mention?
One of the biggest things when I was learning Mercy was your life, or one of the big things that I learned is your life is the most valuable thing on the battlefield. Obviously, there are occasions when you need to die for your teammate. For example, say someone's gonna die and you need to save them because they're gonna win the fight. Go ahead and save them. If you can't get the res off, save them, and your life, you can die for it. But at the end of the day, you can't res yourself, but you can res your teammates. Make sure your teammates are like alive, obviously. But if your teammate's getting bombarded by something, get out of dodge, leave. Like, you don't have to be there. You don't have to necessarily like die with your soldier while he's on the high ground. Fly to an Ana. Like, your life is the most valuable thing in the game. You have res, you have fly, you have Valkyrie, you have regeneration. You dying in a lot of scenarios won't help your team win a fight because you can, at the end of the day, res the teammate that died, but you can't res yourself. Make sure you're alive. Make sure you're doing your job, obviously, but don't be afraid to like leave someone who's going to die and go to someone else.
And finally, are there any other final things that you want to go over when it comes to playing and learning Mercy?
Initially, playing Mercy is going to seem like no fun. You're not going to have much time on Mercy, so you only think there's healing and standing still to Mercy, but there's a lot more to the character. So I suggest investing a little time into Mercy, start playing her more and more, and see what works for you. Do you enjoy playing the hero? Great, play her more. Do you not enjoy her after playing a while and learning how to damage boost? That's okay. There's such a wide variety of heroes in Overwatch that Mercy might not be for you, and that's okay. If you have a Mercy on your team in comp, or you're playing Mercy, make sure you kind of are playing Mercy in the right scenario. Mercy's pretty good with a lot of like long-range DPS or burst DPS or high damage output DPS like Junkrat, Hanzo, Widowmaker, McCree, Pharah, Soldier. But she doesn't work very well with flankers like Doomfist, Tracer, Sombra because she can't be there for the DPS. It's the idea of living. Make sure you can actually like be alive and be safe while you're damage boosting the DPS. If you're playing a comp where you're playing Tracer Genji, Mercy might not be the best, and that's okay. You can play other supports. But find the right place to play Mercy, and that comes with experience.
And finally, where can people see more of you playing both in the pro setting and also on your own streams?
So I stream occasionally right now on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/swimmer. I'm just finishing up high school, and I'll be streaming more. But currently, I'm also playing for Uprising Academy in Overwatch Contenders. We'll be competing in Season 2. And I will update that on my Twitter and in my Discord. My Twitter is twitter.com/swimmerow. That's pretty much where you can find me.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you do have any other Mercy tips to share yourself, then put them in the comments below. And do check out Swimmer's stuff, his Twitch, his Twitter and that in the description as well. Thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you next time.